Sam, thank you so much for joining us on Crypto World to kick off the week. Slew of what continues to be interesting news in crypto, but it seems like things are still kind of as they were before the big drop a couple of weeks ago. I know we had Jay Powell's speech on Friday in Jackson Hole talking about how inflation is still a little bit too high and it is possible that we could see more rate hikes in the future. What did you make of that and how it might impact the crypto market given, Bitcoin's kind of fluctuating relationship over the past year, not relationship, but correlation rather with stocks? How is that going to affect crypto?
Yeah, Tanea, thanks for having me back on. I really appreciate it. Certainly Jackson Hole is where the central bankers get together and kind of dictate where policy is going to head in the future. And a lot of people felt that they were giving the message that they would raise interest rates even further. And that kind of spooked other asset classes because obviously when the risk-free rate continues to go up, it kind of acts as a vacuum from these other asset classes. When you can earn, a higher attractive yield on a treasury or in the money market fund, it kind of pulls funds away from these other asset classes. And so Bitcoin, equities, all kind of suffered after the messaging coming out of Jackson Hole that they might have to keep raising interest rates further. And certainly when you look at the inflation picture, it has come down, but it still remains above the Fed's target of 2%, specifically in the core like services sector, which Jerome Powell has talked about pretty frequently. You couple that with the fact that unemployment still remains at multi-decade lows, and people think, hey, the Fed has room to continue hiking heights higher here, and that could put further pressure on other risk assets, such as equities, and people still look at Bitcoin as a risk asset as well.
Go just a little bit deeper on that because we know that throughout 2022, those rate hikes were among other drivers. There was a lot of mismanagement at crypto lenders and at FTX in 2022, but there are also the rate hikes, which really helped drive the price of Bitcoin down. And that relationship is a little bit different. And if we look at the CPI numbers this year, for most of the past few prints, let's say, the reaction either on the upside or the downside has been pretty flat. So how do you expect to see that trend continue through the rest of the year?
Yeah, so CPI definitely has come down this year, and Bitcoin's price has rallied, which a lot of people really expected that not to happen. But, when the rates continue to get increased, Bitcoin typically doesn't have a yield. It's because it doesn't have counterparty risk. Just like gold, it usually kind of struggles when real rates continue to go more positive. And so if we continue to see interest rates go up, I do expect Bitcoin to come under pressure. But there are other issues here. There's other issues with the fiscal side of things. As interest rates go higher, it's going to increase the budget deficits. And when you think about the long term, the unsustainable nature of the fiscal picture, assets like gold and Bitcoin are becoming more and more attractive for long-term investors who are looking at this fiscal picture and they're saying, this doesn't make sense. We might need to have an asset that's functioning outside of this system as a hedge. And so I think, if interest rates keep coming up, it's going to worsen that fiscal picture even more, make it a lot more uncertain. And assets like gold and Bitcoin are going to benefit as people start to think more about the long-term consequences here.
So what is driving price right now? And I guess more specifically, what is going to bring a little bit more movement back? Like I said at the top, we did have that big drop just a couple of weeks ago, but it seems like ever since that correction, things have just gotten a little bit quiet again as they were just before the drop. I'm looking at data right now of both combined volumes on spot exchanges and derivatives exchanges showing lowest Bitcoin trading volume since 2019 when denominated in Bitcoin, since 2020 when denominated in dollars. And it's been a theme of the year. So I know that there's not much happening in the price action, but there is a lot of interesting stuff going on beneath the surface. And what do you think are some of the big developments, let's say, that investors should be tracking right now, and then ultimately what's going to shake things up in the market a little bit more?
Yeah, well, certainly this price drop down was worsened by the fact that a lot of leveraged traders were wiped out. I think coming into June, one of the things that got people excited was this application from BlackRock for a spot Bitcoin ETF, which is certainly something to get excited about. But perhaps short-term traders got over their skis because when the price dropped recently, it caused a lot of leveraged liquidations. We had over 2.5 billion dollars worth of liquidations on this price movement down, which creates a good foundation for kind of a continuation upwards. Now that we had all these leveraged traders get wiped out, perhaps we're on a more steady basis here to keep going up. And then when you look at the spot Bitcoin ETF, that is a significant development. A lot of people are seeing this as a sign that we are right around the corner from a spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, that would open the doors for a lot of these institutions who are constrained by their investment mandates or regulatory requirements from holding spot Bitcoin. And so if they can hold a security and gain exposure to Bitcoin, that can provide a lot increased demand for the underlying asset, which would result in a price increase. Not only that, but it makes it a very convenient way for anybody with a traditional brokerage account to gain exposure to Bitcoin. They might be kind of steered away from it because of maybe technical hurdles and they don't feel comfortable. But when you just have a Bitcoin button in your brokerage account that you can just buy it, it can really make it easy for anybody to gain exposure to Bitcoin, which could be a catalyst for the price moving forward.